Good morning. This is Sean Spence with Let's Talk Poverty Perspectives, thoughts on solving poverty in the United States. We have a story we tell ourselves in America. Work hard, show up every day, and you'll have a roof over your head. It's the bedrock promise. Not wealth, not luxury, not just stability. A place to sleep, a door you can lock. That promise is broken, and the evidence is hiding in plain sight. Let me tell you about Darnell. He's not a real person. He's a composite of dozens of people I've encountered through my work. Darnell is 44 years old and has held the same job for 3 years. Full time, consistent, never calls in sick. He works the overnight shift at a warehouse distribution center outside a mid sized city, earning $15.50 an hour. That's $32,240 a year. By almost any definition, Darnell is doing what we asked him to do. Darnell sleeps in his car 4 nights a week. The other 3 nights, he stays with his cousin, who has made it clear this arrangement cannot be permanent. Darnell isn't waiting for an opportunity, he's waiting for a vacancy because the apartment wait list in his city is 18 months long, and the cheapest one bedroom he can find requires proof of income at 3 times the monthly rate. His income does not qualify, not because he doesn't work hard enough, because the math no longer works for people like him. Here's a number that should stop us cold. According to the National Low Income Housing Coalition, a full time minimum wage worker cannot afford a modest one bedroom apartment in a single state in the country. Not one. The average American renter needs to earn $28.58 an hour, nearly double the federal minimum wage, just to afford a two-bedroom at fair market rent without being cost burdened. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development defines cost burdened as spending more than 30% of your income on housing. By that measure, nearly half of all renters in America are cost burdened right now. The U.S. Conference of Mayors annual report on hunger and homelessness consistently finds that employment is not a reliable protection against homelessness. People work, people are still homeless. Those two things are happening simultaneously at scale across every city in this country. And yet we still talk about homelessness like it's a character flaw. Think of the housing market like a game of musical chairs, except someone keeps removing chairs while insisting the music will stop fairly. Low income renters are running the same race, playing by the same rules, but the number of affordable units keeps shrinking. According to the National Low Income Housing Coalition, for every 100 extremely low income renter households in America, there are only 34 affordable and available units. That's not a personal failing. That's a structural collapse playing out in slow motion in every zip code in this country. Here's what I find genuinely outrageous. We've decided as a society that it is acceptable for employees to pay wages that cannot sustain human life, and then privately congratulate ourselves for donating to homeless shelters. We have outsourced the cost of inadequate wages to charity, to emergency rooms, to shelter systems, to everyone except the entities profiting from the labor. Major corporations whose workers qualify for government assistance are, in effect, receiving a public subsidy. Taxpayers are covering the gap between what workers are paid and what it costs to survive. That's not a free market. That's socialism for shareholders. I say this not to demonize business. I've spent my career building relationships with the business community, and I believe deeply in the power of private enterprise. But we have to be honest. When a full time worker cannot afford a one-bedroom apartment, we don't have a lazy workforce problem. We have a wage and housing problem that we have collectively decided to ignore. Teresa is 52. She works two part time jobs, a coffee shop in the morning, a grocery store in the afternoon, and earns just under $29,000 a year combined. She's not had a full weekend off in 2 years. Teresa was evicted 18 months ago when her rent was raised $400 a month, a 38% increase at lease renewal. She now lives in transitional housing, which limits her stay to 90 days at a time. She spends real mental energy every few months figuring out where she'll sleep next, and she still shows up to work. Both jobs every day. Teresa is not lazy. That's the last thing she is. Teresa is exhausted by a system that keeps moving the finish line. We have 653,000 Americans experiencing homelessness on any given night, according to HUD's annual point in time count. A significant portion of them are employed. They're not between jobs, they're not choosing the streets, they are working and still losing. The question we have to ask ourselves, honestly, without flinching, is this: what does it say about us that we've accepted this? That we walk past Darnell's car in the parking lot, buy our coffee from Teresa, and tell ourselves the system is working? It isn't working, not for them. Darnell and Teresa aren't asking for handouts. They're asking for a country that values their labor enough to let them sleep indoors. The question isn't whether we can afford to fix this, it's whether we're willing to admit it is broken. I'm Sean Spence. Thanks for listening to Let's Talk Poverty Perspectives. Learn more at povertyactivist.com. Together, we can solve poverty.